All right. Peace and love, everybody. Sister Alexis of Divine Notary and Notary Wellness Mentor. I was trying to do a live in my Notary Wellness Mentor membership, paid membership Facebook group, but I was having a hard time. So I did a couple of videos and I figured I'll just kind of do a quick video here. I'm just wondering, are y'all using your journals? Are you using your journals? Are you writing in your journals? Are you writing in your journals? Are you writing in your notary journals? I'm so curious. What's happening with the notary journals? If you're not writing in your notary journals, you're doing yourself a disservice. Notary journals are very important to our profession. We need to keep track of everyone that we have signed for. We want to be able to pick up any fraud or negligence. And the only way that we can track that is if we actually write in our journals. I was just telling my mentees, I met a sister who is a paralegal, and she felt like because she was a paralegal, she did not have to write in her journal. And I'm here to tell you that is not true. So there are a lot of specifications for each state. But if your state does not, like Florida, you actually don't have to have a journal for Florida. But it is a best practice for you to still maintain a journal. Still maintain a journal. Just because we want to be orderly and, and organized, it's important for us to have a journal. So whether your state requires it or not, still maintain a journal, okay? Some other things is things happen. If you happen to lose your journal, find out your state's requirement. Find out your state's requirements on what is the procedure to report your journal. Most likely, you will need to put in writing to the Secretary of State, report it to the authorities. Report it to the authorities. And let them know that your journal was lost or stolen or what have you. Again, make sure you put it in writing. Make sure you report it to your local police. Make sure you report it to the Secretary of State. If your journal gets filled up and you're like, where I'm pretty much almost through my journal, if your journal is filled up and you're like, okay, what do I do? Each state, again, has its own specifications. And if it doesn't have specifications, my suggestion is you keep it for 5 to 7 years in a safe or a locked briefcase. 5 to 7 years in a safe or a locked briefcase. You have some states, they want you to keep it for 10 years. Some states, they want you to keep it permanently. So after, if say for instance, you filled up your journal and you're like, okay, so yes, you have to find out through your state what they want you to do. And then you also if you not if you lose it. If you lose it, we've discussed that if you lose it, you need to report it. If you fill it up, you need to keep it for 5 to 7 years if your state does not have specifications. If your state does, you need to find out your state's requirements and pretty much know what you need to do in reference to that. Like, no one wants to get in trouble about this stuff. So if you're just not sure, you reach out to someone. You could just call your Secretary of State anytime you have a question. And I don't think people realize that anytime you have a question that your notary mentor can't help you with immediately, call the Secretary of State. That's what they're there for. You're not sure, call the Secretary of State. And that's pretty much it. I didn't want to go like too deep on it, but I just wanted to let people know because I don't think people realize there are rules to there's rules to this when it comes to our notary journal. So each state has its own specification again. So if you are almost if your journal is almost filled up, you need to find out exactly what it is based on your state and go from there and make sure that you do what you need to have done so you don't have to worry about it. There are some states that they will fine you. You'll get from $50 to $500 you can get fined, or there are like really intense penalties that could be a misdemeanor. Ain't nobody got time for no misdemeanors. Nobody got time for paying extra stuff either. So just make sure you keep it. I have a lot of people wondering if they need to do the thumbprint. No, you don't need to do the thumbprint unless you're in California. I believe that's the only state that requires it. If you are nervous and you just don't want to deal with any fraud situation and you feel like, I feel more confident if I get the thumbprint and utilize the thumbprint. I don't like I don't want to have my clients even more stressed out by making them do something that's not required. But if you want to, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure you do it for all your clients. Use the thumbprint for every single client. For every single client across the board. And that's pretty much it. If you are... All right, so the service is starting to act up, so that means it's time to go. The Notary Public Code of Professional Responsibilities, that's something that you could look up, Notary Public Code of Professional Responsibilities. It's getting late, so I can barely speak, but you can look that up if you're not sure about just anything. So if you want to know about the whole notary process, or you just feel unsure about some things, the Notary Public Code of Professional Responsibilities, you can go ahead and get the PDF file and download it, print it, put it in a 3-subject notebook binder, get your little highlighter, highlight it, and that's something that can stay in a Tupperware in your trunk. And anytime you're at a client's house and you're unsure about something, you can't reach anyone, just go to that, or go to your state's manual, your notary manual. If you haven't printed your notary manual, make sure you print that as well and do some highlighting in that. And you can always have a reference. You're not alone out there. You do have resources. Just because you don't always have a physical person, it doesn't mean that you don't have resources. So you do have resources, and you can always call the Secretary of State. All right, y'all. Peace and love. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next go round. Peace.